Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video I'll be giving you my full review of the RU-251, the Tier 4 German light premium tank that currently sits at 7.0 BR in RB and 6.7 BR in AB. I'll be going over its stats, roles, strengths, and weaknesses, and then give my final recommendation on if you should purchase this vehicle or not. As always, please toss a crumb my way in the form of a sub if you like this video, but with that out of the way, let's get into it. So to start for stats, the RU-251 features light armor of 30mm, 20mm, and 8mm for the front, side, and rear of the hull, and 20mm all around on the turret. It has an 81 km/h top speed in RB and 90 km/h in AB. It has a 90mm BK-90 cannon, which is the same cannon that's featured on the regular tech tree Jagdpanzer IV-5. This can shoot through up to 320mm of armor with its Heat FS shell and up to 102mm of armor with its Hess shell. Has a 16.8 to 24 degree per second turret rotation RV depending on upgrades and crew level. And finally, it has between a 7.5 and 9.75 second reload speed, again depending on crew level. And now for its roles, the RU-251 is good for basically one thing, flanking, which can then be divided into three semi-separate sub-roles. These sub-roles include flank and spank, aka killing enemies, capping points, and providing intel. Ultimately, if you're flanking, you're doing all three of these things anyways, or at least two of those three things typically. The high speed of this vehicle, being higher than almost all other 7.0 BR vehicles in RB, provides a huge advantage when running along the edges of the map, and when combined with your cannon that can pen nearly all enemies at this BR, gives you a greater ability to do hit and run attacks than almost all other tanks in-game relative to BR. When combined with foliage, you can dart through forests unseen to suddenly appear behind enemy lines, taking advantage of your high pen and quick reloading ammunition to devastate the enemy. The only thing stopping you might be bad luck or lack of knowledge on the internals of enemy tanks, being that your Heat FS ammunition does not one-shot enemies as often as other cannons at this BR, especially against tanks with larger interiors such as the BMP. Now if you play AB, this basically functions like if the Leopard 1 and R3 T20 had a baby, but instead of feeding it milk, it was fed Panther Chocolat. In much the same way, stick to the corners of the map, but instead of finding safety and concealment like foliage and trees, you'll be best to sit behind rocks and buildings, peeking out only when opportune shots come along. And now for its strengths and weaknesses. For its strengths, I'd say it has a good cannon which can pen through most enemies, including super heavy tanks from the front, and is also very accurate. It also has a high top speed, which is among the highest of all tanks at 7.0 BR in RB, especially when considering vehicles with tracks. Its tracks give it a huge advantage over wheeled vehicles on unpaved terrain, which makes it very fast on all types of terrain and really just an excellent scout tank. It also has good turret traverse, but it's not incredible, at least when it comes to light tanks. Additionally, the RU-251 has a low profile and small size, which can make it difficult for enemies to hit you. This has the additional effect of making it difficult to see over low-lying obstacles like stone walls. Additionally, the RU-251 features smoke grenades, and finally, it has premium bonuses allowing you to earn RP and silver lions at a high rate at a very critical spot in the German tech tree. Now for weaknesses, it has a strong cannon, but the Heat FS does not have an incredibly high rate of one-shot kills, meaning that you will oftentimes kill 1, 2, maybe 3 crew members, but you'll still be left with a functioning and dangerous enemy tank. Secondly, the RU-251 lacks a stabilizer. Now, while the lack of a stabilizer is expected at this BR, the mediocre suspension plus high speed makes high speed shots impossible. It makes it so that you could take a relatively long time after stopping for your vehicle to level out for a shot, which makes you incredibly vulnerable if you're in close quarters with an enemy. Third, the RU-251 features weak armor. Now it's strong enough to deflect most HMGs, but the rear of the tank only has 8mm of armor, which really puts it at a very difficult position when facing, let's say for example, a tank with a 50 cal or a Russian tank with an HMG. Now, due to the lack of high angles, the armor is also too thin to stop or reliably deflect full-size projectiles. Additionally, while it does have good zoom at 8 times, it has a small field of view, which limits how much you can see, which can be pretty difficult, especially in the scout role. The RU-251 also has a cramped interior with ammo clumped together, especially at the front. APHE shells are typically one-shot kills against the RU-251. And finally, it no longer sits at 6.7 in RB, but still enjoys that BR in AB, if nothing else. And now for my final recommendation. With the somewhat recent change to 7.0 BR for the RU-251, the answer is no longer as clear-cut as it had been on whether or not you should purchase this vehicle. Back when it was at 6.7 BR, especially if you had the Tiger II SLA, Panther II, and Tiger 10.5, you could easily have an 8-vehicle lineup that was all 6.7 BR. In my opinion, that was one of the best lineups in the entire game at any BR. Now, being that the RU-251 sits at 7.0 BR, it throws all of that out of whack, as 8.0 is a huge BR for tanks and air forces, so you'll be up-tiered far more often, making it so that by using the RU-251 with a German late World War II lineup, you'll be facing far more mid-Cold War vehicles and will likely be demolished, whereas this had not happened in the past, at least not nearly as much. It is still an incredibly potent vehicle by itself and acts as the perfect light tank for a German tech tree that desperately needs it. The problem with the RU-251 sitting at 7.0 BR is not with the vehicle itself, but with the fact that it is no longer a lineup completing vehicle, as only one other German ground vehicle currently sits at 7.0 BR, at least as of the recording of this video. Because it will almost always make your lineups be up-tiered or itself being a lower BR vehicle in a higher BR lineup, I just don't know if I can recommend the RU-251, at least not for 7480 GE, and at least not for the purpose of finishing up a lineup in RB. Of course, it can still be an incredibly potent vehicle in the 7.3 BR lineup with the Leopard 1, but it is no longer the capping vehicle to a great 6.7 BR lineup, as I've said numerous times. Its nearly 7,500 GE cost is equal to nearly $40 USD, which is coincidentally the same price of the Sumua SM pack, which provides the amazing Sumua SM, 7 days of premium time, and 1000 GE. Heck, you could even purchase the Tiger II SLA pack with the same benefits, except with the Tiger II SLA as the vehicle in the pack, and you'd still walk away a winner. Ultimately, the decision to buy the RU-251 will come down to if you don't mind spending money that could go to, in my opinion, a better 7.3 BR Sumua SM than a 7.0 BR 251. Now, the RU-251 is not a centerpiece vehicle, nor has it ever been, but its inability to mesh with the lower BR lineup in RB severely limits its value, in my opinion. And while still usable in a utility role at 7.3 BR as a mini Leopard, it just doesn't have the same punch that it used to. The final line, I would say to purchase this if you feel the need for a light tank at this BR for Germany, if you don't mind having an off BR vehicle in your lineup, or if you don't have that far into the German tech tree anyways. Personally, I would actually just wait for a sale if you're going to be purchasing this for RB, but again, it's still a great vehicle. For AB, my tune is a bit different as it is still 6.7 BR and can thus be part of the late World War II lineup, at least for the most part, because other vehicles have different BRs, like the Panther II is a 7.0 in AB, whereas the RU-251 is 6.7. Now in that case, I'd say it's more worth it, but it's still a judgment call based on whatever you need most. Now, while the RU-251 can still easily dominate in a match at 7.0 BR, getting 3 to 4 kills in rapid succession in a fight, it no longer fits in the great 6.7 BR lineup that could really use it, and for that, I cannot fully recommend the RU-251. But again, that does not mean it's not a great tank. That all being said, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Seriously, it all means the world to me. Please like, comment, subscribe. You know the dealio. With all that said, I'll see you guys all on the other side. Take care, everyone.